All right, Nick, let's talk about the Florida State Seminoles. This team has really been on an upward trajectory as of late. I think they're getting a lot stronger this offseason, and that comes to no surprise that through building this team, getting more and more national notoriety, they attract some big transfer portal additions. And today, I think one of the biggest ones they could have gotten has made theirself known, Nick, and we're going to get that story in just a moment.
Miles, I agree with you 100%. Florida State fans have to love what they're getting out of the transfer portal this season as they prepare for their 2023 campaign. But before we look to the future, let's take a step back and look back in the history of Florida State football. And that leads me to a question for you guys, the FSU fans, to answer, as always, in the comment section below. Interesting question for you today. Who is the greatest wide receiver in Florida State history? There's a lot of interesting names. I was a Peter Warrick guy. I loved watching him grow up. He was a dynamic player. Of course, Anquan Bolden was a stupendous player, both in college and NFL. A lot of other great options as well. So give us the greatest Florida State wide receiver, in your opinion, in the comment section below. But all right, Miles, what you got? What's this big transfer portal news out of Florida State?
Yeah, Nick, I'm not going to hide anymore. We're going to get straight into it, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit afterwards. But nonetheless, former Michigan State wide receiver Keelan Coleman has committed to Florida State, Nick. The 6'4", 215-pound wide receiver will still have 2 years of eligibility remaining. Coleman was ranked as the number 3 available player in the portal. Nick, I think this is huge. I think Coach Mike Norvell is going to love this. This guy seems to be a very, very legit weapon that Florida State has gotten. And I think they're kind of turning around this program, Nick, to be a potential top 10 offense in the 2023 season. I think that, bringing back a guy like Jordan Travis, they got Johnny Wilson, Trey Benson. The offensive line has gotten a lot of additions to it as well. I just think the addition of Coleman really bolsters his offense in such a way that they are going to be a high-flying offense this season, and I think it's going to be very, very exciting to watch as well. But that there's going to be a very big dynamic duo, and I say big because 6'4", 215 is insane, Nick. Coleman and Wilson are going to be two imposing forces on the wide receiver line. I don't think anyone is going to want to press man these guys. They're going to be dominant in that aspect of things, going up for 50-50 balls. This team is going to be a sight to behold. But Nick, nonetheless, I'm excited to hear your thoughts. What do you think about Coleman picking Florida State, and what do you think about this means about Florida State's future?
So it's clear Norvell and his staff are outstanding at getting veteran transfers to come into Florida State, right? And look, you have to understand what you're good at as a coach, right? Some coaches are great recruiters in terms of high school kids. Some coaches are greater and, they're more effective at getting transfers. It seems like Norvell is better at transfers. And to his credit, he's sticking to that strategy and he's having a lot of success. If you look down some of the big names they've added to the roster, you look at Fintrell Cypress from Virginia, tight end Jaheim Bell from South Carolina, Jeremiah Byers, the offensive tackle from the University of Texas, El Paso, Brandon Fisk from Western Michigan. And of course, you brought up Johnny Wilson, who last year was a transfer from, I believe, Arizona State, who had a big season, led FSU with almost 900 receiving yards. You pair him with Coleman, again, a dynamic duo receiving threat, like you mentioned. But I just look at the long-term viability of this program, of how they're able to bring in transfers. And look, sometimes we talk about it, right? Sometimes you need to be really aggressive at when the 5 stars in recruits, and that allows you to get better recruits. The other way you can go about it, and this is kind of what Lincoln Riley at Southern Cal has done, is you're really aggressive in the transfer game. You get a lot better on the field and you get a lot better, and the recruits want to come anyway because they're a good football team. Looks like Norvell and company is taking that approach, and it's being very effective so far. They're really knocking it out of the park. Credit to his staff for really doing a good job nailing these transfers down and bring them into the fold and continuing to do it. They did it before spring ball. Now they've done it after spring ball. This guy's going to be a dynamic playmaker, and Coleman, I'm excited to see what he can do for this team in 2023. But I think the long-term success of this Florida State program, the long-term health, I should say, is really strong if they're able to keep this pipeline coming of transfers, and I see no reason why it should stop.
Yeah, Nick, I think a really key aspect here for Florida State is they're taking a unique approach, and rather than, focusing solely on their weaknesses, they go attack their strengths and, rebuild some of the strongest parts of their game, getting another top-level receiver. As you said, they already had Wilson, who's very, very good. And I think you get a really good return on your investment when you invest into your strengths. Sometimes it can be a gamble when you do things that you're not necessarily known for being good at. But when you hit on your strengths, which Florida State has been very good at developing wide receivers and offensive weapons in general, we see earlier this season, Jaheim Bell, a true hybrid running back / tight end guy from South Carolina, very elite playmaker. Then again, we see it with Coleman, just investing in things that you know that you are good at. is going to give you a better return on investment over time than if you were to gamble on something that you're not that great at. So I really like the approach they take here, and I hope that it pays off at this season because it's going to be a fun offense to watch.